Karl Gill. I'm a second year social science student. I put myself forward for this election because I believe that I'm the one who really has the experience for campaigning, for campaigns and communications. It's what I do all the time. I'm an activist, I'm a student activist. That's what I'm involved in. I have the experience. I was student president of Slightly Further of Education. I was in charge of 900 students for a whole year, and I have the experience to drive these things forward, and I believe I have the ideas to do it too.
My name's Paddy Guiney, and I'm a 21-year-old third-year politics and history student. I believe I'm the most passionate and experienced candidate for this position. I was your sports officer this year, and I've done so much with that. I brought you the first ever sports group. I set up countless five-a-sides. I brought you a very successful FIFA tournament. But most importantly, I was instrumental in the Save Our Track campaign, and that was the first thing that introduced me to and gave me the bug that decided to let me run for campaigns and communications. I want to make UCD a community. That is my ethos, and that's my main message. And that's exactly what I want to do. I feel I'm the best man for the job, and I'd love if you could vote for me. Thank you.
Hi guys, I'm James Atkinson. I'm a 20-year-old commerce student from Wexford. I'm basically running for this position because I, like many others, see communication as one of the biggest problems facing the Students' Union, and I want to bring a bit of change to that. I suppose as someone who works on a till in Centra, I know a lot about change. Guys, I hope you like my ideas. I'm going to be discussing them today. What I can guarantee you is honesty, openness, approachability, accountability, and a union that actually comes to you. And obviously you'll hear more about that as the day goes on, but I hope you enjoy the hustings. Thanks very much.
Hi everyone, my name is Sheerin. I'm currently the Arts Programme Officer, and the reason I'm running for Campaigns and Communications Officer is I truly believe that I'm the best person for the job. I have the most experience, I know what it takes. I this year have seen that there can be so much more done within campaigns and communications. I want to open up the Students' Union. I want to get rid of the idea that we're a clique. I want people outside class reps to be able to get involved with our Students' Union, know what's going on. I have the ideas, I have the enthusiasm, the energy, and I know that I am the right person for the job. Thank you.
Okay, so when I ask you a question, you can each have a couple of seconds to answer it individually, and then if you feel that you can contradict or argue with a point someone else has made, feel free to do so afterwards. Okay, so the first question. You've all mentioned disappointment with communications this year, but how specifically are you going to improve how the union gets its message to students, and why is your plan better than anyone else's and the job that Lacey's done this year?
Yeah, well, I think one of the most shocking things that I've come across the last few weeks, in particular when I was collecting signatures for nominations to put myself on the ballot paper when I've been doing lecture addresses, is that students can't even name all five of their SU officers, and I think that is shocking. There's 5 people who work here who get paid €400 a week of students' money, and most students can't even name them. That's not students' fault. That's the fault of the Students' Union in neglecting its duties and communicating things. What I propose to do in communicating things on a regular basis, I don't feel students read the emails. I've asked students, do you read your emails that you get every 2 weeks, which, by the way, isn't enough. But I ask students to read the student papers, the Tribune and the Observer, and they do. So what I want to do is issue a newsletter that we distribute it around residencies and around all buildings on campus, so students know what exactly is going on a regular basis, where their money is being spent, and what each officer is up to on a regular basis.
I want to add a new level to communications, and I feel I'm the best person for that. The main question is how. How am I going to do that? I'm going to use every single method of communication we currently have and just use it and put my 100% into it. First of all, what I'm going to introduce is weekly YouTube videos. I want to send a positive message out to the people who are in the Students' Union. Basically, so much work. From my experience as being a sports officer, I've seen so much work that goes on in that corridor, and I want to let people know that. I want to let people know the good news. So that's what I'm going to endear, to have a 2-minute, every week I'm going to have a 2-minute YouTube video where I'm going to tell what I've done this week and what the students might find interesting, and just to get people involved. The second thing I want to do is, there's so many screens, exactly like in the student centre there, there's so many numerous screens around campus. Let's use them. Let's get every sort of communication we can. Basically, we're using all the resources we can at the most cost-effective way we can. So that's why I'm going to improve communication.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'd like to agree with Karl. He made the point that the emails aren't as effective as they should be, considering they're a main tool of communication. So one way I'm going to do that, change that, is have, again, like Guiney, YouTube videos. However, I don't feel a YouTube video a week is practical, because what will happen there, I think, is at the last minute you'll plan it and it'll just be a rushed video because there's not enough time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a YouTube video every 2 weeks. And to make it more accountable, so you actually know this is going to happen, I pledge that if I ever miss a YouTube video, I'm going to donate 50 euros of my salary to the welfare fund. In this way, I'm making the union more accountable to you. But the biggest point in my manifesto about communication is that for too long, the union has been saying, come down to us, drop us an email, pop us a text, you can have a cup of tea in the office. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the union to you. And I'm going to do that by having a stand on campus once a week. I'm going to do it maybe in the morning for 3 or 4 hours, and I'm going to have cups of tea, and passing students can come by for a chat, and I'll offer advice, they can ask questions, and I can tell them about what's going on in their union, on their campus, and how to get involved. So I think if we bring the union to the students, they'll become much more informed, and it's a much more effective means of communication. And as well as that, I believe that the website could be a fantastic tool of communication if you were to make it a site that students could use regularly. And this is so simple. What I propose to do is have 4 tabs on the top: Facebook, Connect, Blackboard, SIS Web. I know personally, if there was one website that had those 4 tabs, it would be my ideal student homepage. It would generate hits, and we could look into getting sponsorship for the site. And in this way, the Student Union website could become a really, really effective form of communication. So YouTube videos, websites, and campus engagements through cups of tea, because we all love a cuppa. Thanks.
Okay, the way I would improve communications is, well, firstly, most of you who, if you aren't a class rep, never attend council, so therefore it's meant to be open to everybody, but people feel intimidated to actually go. Therefore, what I propose is that we have a live stream online that people can click into and watch. So it'd be so much better, because people would then know what's actually happening in council. The second thing I propose is to revamp the union Facebook page. It's all about Facebook lately. I don't think there's a point in trying to get update our website. To be honest, nobody goes on websites anymore. If we just make the Facebook page better, that's the way to go forward. In terms of YouTube, I completely agree with the other guys. We need vlogs, so video logs that the Sabbats use, and then also online union calendars. If you want to take a trip to one of the Students' Union officers, you sometimes don't know whether they're busy or not. You could just click onto their calendar and see what they're doing, and then you know whether you can pop down to them or not. It's all about making us more accessible, more transparent, more open. That's what I aim to do. Thank you.
Okay, now if you have a point, if you'd like to contradict, or you think there's a weakness in an answer of your fellow candidates, then point it out now.
Yeah, I'd just like to agree first of all with Aisling on the whole union council thing. However, I don't think a live stream is exactly the most realistic or practical idea that needs to be done. I think what needs to be done is the union council needs to be opened up. It's in the smallest lecture theatre in Arts every 2 weeks, and it's never advertised at all. What we need to do is we need to put up posters, we need to tell students, we need to get class reps to tell their students that they can get along to union council, and they can sit in union council and watch it on a regular basis, and make it an actual big on-campus thing rather than being a secret society style secretive get-together. That's what I want to do at Union Council. On the YouTube video thing, I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's a good idea. However, if you look at what the evidence that is there of the current Students' Union, the Welfare Office in particular, have been doing it, and only one video that the Welfare Office have put out has got over 1,000 views on it. The rest of them only have around 300, 400 views less. So I don't think it's exactly practical. I think what's far more practical is getting back to the basics, getting back to the traditional format of paper, people reading things, getting around, putting the face of the union around campus a lot more, people, class reps lecture addressing a lot more, the communications officer lecture addressing a lot more, and ensuring that there is a real face on campus of the Students' Union.
No, Karl makes a very good point. one of the things I endeavour to do is I want to open up the union to lecture theatres. Part of my, if I'm lucky enough to get elected, part of my briefing will be every single morning I will lecture address classes on what's going on, whether it's an education brief, whether it's a welfare brief, whether there's an event going on that week. Students will know, they will get the message that the students' union are saying. Other things is, like, I think a YouTube video is crucial, and I think weekly, and that's what I intend to do, weekly continuous videos that people can watch, that people can follow. I'm not talking about 45 minutes long or a live stream. I'm talking about 2 minutes of concise information that students are already heard, that they're positive about, that they know what's going on, just keeping students in the loop. The third thing is, unlike other candidates, I feel we do not need a new website. Under the current strength we're on and how cost effective it is with the amount of debt we're incurring, how we can combat this is get student involvement. I've spoken to when designing my manifesto, I've spoken to computer science students. I've seen that it can be done. We can revamp that website that we currently have, make it more accessible and make it more open. That's where I'm going. Thank you.
But just I don't think on the evidence hasn't really shown that the YouTube videos have been too practical. They're not a bad idea, as I said, but I don't think candidates should be having a huge over-focus on it. The evidence shows that the videos that the SU have put up online, even when they're shared about, have only proven to be about 100 or 200 views. So,
So if I could just make a point there really quickly. If you look at Paddy's manifesto, right, he makes the point that he would encourage the use of an online forum on the website for class reps, so people know and they can ask their class reps questions on an online forum on the website. Yes, he later goes on to say, and I quote, "The SU website is simply not an effective means of communication." So how does he propose to make an online forum for class reps to get out there and talk to students on the website, and then continue to say that the website is not an effective form of communication? I'm asking Paddy, what's he going to do about the website?
Oh, James, that's a good point. Quite simply what I'm saying is I want to revamp the current website. In response to your 2 points of the class reform, these are going to be new tabs. These are going to be new incentives that are going to be present on the website. Stuff that draws students into the website, that makes them go on the page. So in response to the class reps thing, there will be an online forum.
I am all for increasing the level of communication between reps and students. And like, guys, if you ask yourselves now, right, you want to ask your class rep something, 90% of you are going to go onto the Facebook page and go onto whatever it is, the arts group or the class rep Facebook group, because 90% of class reps have set them up. That's the best way to communicate with your class rep. And secondly, Karl Gill has said that he would encourage the use of leaflets around campus. What I'd say is, considering we're in debt, I would look at the cost of having leaflets around campus. It's a lot more cheaper to run a catchy YouTube video that has information in it.
Karl, I'd like to go in there, because that was a question I was going to ask you later on anyway.
Yeah.
No, hold on. Hold on. With the union sending out a bi-weekly email, an email every 2 weeks, and 2 campus newspapers that are very widely read and that evaluate the work of the students' union objectively, how can you justify the cost of a union news pamphlet, which would essentially just be a propaganda pamphlet?
Well, I mean, I don't want to get into a debate of what is and what isn't propaganda, but at the same time, I think it's important to have a newsletter that says in really detailed, bit by bit, what each officer has been up to. The newspaper doesn't do that. The newspaper will report on scandal and different things that are going on campus, but the newspaper won't report on financial expenditure in any great detail. And I think you can't put a price on these things. Yeah, it would be expensive, but it wouldn't be too expensive. It's just a few A4 pages every few weeks. So it wouldn't be too expensive, but you can't put a price on actually getting in contact with with the student population at UCD on a regular basis. You can't put a price on those things. I also, in relation to a few other things we mentioned to class reps, I think class reps should be instrumental in communicating what is happening in the union too. I think class reps should be doing regular lecture addresses, and not just about class parties, not just about ordering hoodies, but proper lecture addresses about what's happening on SU Council and informing students about what motion is up tonight in SU Council. And by doing that, I think my idea of having an entertainment rep and a real class rep will drive that forward, because the person who runs for class rep won't be only interested in organising nights out.
1 second there. You say that you can't put a price on the union news pamphlet, but the union in its current state has to put a price on everything because it's so much in debt. And this brings
put a price on it, but you can't put a value on it.
This brings me to a larger point, maybe about the general kind of way you're coming at the campaign. How do you justify, say, your political views on the copy centre, on the cuts that the union has to make, when the union itself and its president says that they've had to make those cuts.
My political views. Okay, well,
No, not your political views.
Well, that's what you said. You said, how do I justify my political views?
How do you justify your stance on this issue, considering the debt?
Well, everyone has a stance on every single issue, you know. I mean, there's no one who's not biased. Everyone has a political opinion and political views. Some of the people here to my right are involved in other political organisations too, but yet that's never talked about. Apparently, it's only controversial if you call yourself a left-winger in UCD. It's not controversial if you've ever canvassed for a Fianna Fáil TD, and I think that might be the case with some people to my right. I don't think, you know, as I said, you might be able to put a price on issuing newsletters, but you can't put a price on, you can't put a value on telling students on a regular basis what's going on. Everyone, you can say the same thing. People voted for the closure of the Property Bureau. Are they allowed to have an opinion? You know, I mean, everyone's allowed to have an opinion and have a bias.
In terms of politics, I don't think that politics and the students' union should ever come together.
It's unavoidable. It's
completely
unavoidable.
separate. It isn't unavoidable.
It's completely
I'm not
unavoidable.
part
People
of
have
a political
opinions.
party. I don't want to be. That's not my aim here. I don't want to be a politician in the future. There's no ulterior motive to this. I simply want to open up the students' union to the other candidates. So I am the only student running for this position that is not affiliated with a particular.
Just on that point, Ashley, particular political party, sorry. On that point, last year, right, in semester 1, none of you will remember it, but there was a full-page ad in a college paper saying join the campaigns crew and email campaigns@ucdsu.ie. And I looked at that and I laughed. And as someone who kind of knows what students do and don't do, like one of the things you don't do is you don't really email just because you see a paper ad. That to me is a poor way of getting people involved. And as well as that, a suggestion box at the end of emails. While in the spirit of it, it's a fantastic idea because I do encourage students getting involved. But like realistically, you're not going to get a whole lot of response from that. And if you look at the history of it, this year, Brendan Lacey, and in fairness to him, he did put it in this year's emails, say, guys, if you want to get involved, if you have any questions, email us back. But you know, you can ask him yourself, the turnout was low. These things don't work, unfortunately. So what I propose is to bring the students' union to you, and I think the email thing will be ineffective.
Just like to add on that with the campaigns crew. Part of my thing this year, sports officer, I created the first ever sports crew and a very successful sports crew. To go back to the communication part, I think YouTube videos are essential, and I think it's another method. Like you talked about views and hits and the feasibility of it. This is just another element of communicating to students. It's another way of we can send our message out through YouTube videos, through live screens, through lecture addressing. Just sending the positive message to the students and showing what the value they can get, what they have an offer to get from the students' union.
This year, YouTube videos were mainly done by the welfare officer, but it wasn't her job to get the views up. She's the welfare officer. It's the campaigns and communications officer's job to put YouTube videos out there and get the YouTube views up. So I feel if the campaigns and communications officer was to put out YouTube videos, they would go viral and they would be more successful because that's their expertise. That's where their strengths lie.
I just want to say, I think that there's at the moment, there's a huge over-focus, and it is important as well. I'm not saying it's bad, but there's a huge over-focus on the internet. The internet is great, it's a good, useful tool, and it's improved things. But it's also gone, some things have gone in the opposite direction. Let's look at before the internet was going. Only 25% of students vote in the SU elections. Most students don't know who their SU officers are. In the 1980s, it was the other way around. Only 25% of students didn't vote in the SU elections. I think the internet has been useful, but it's also done some damaging things as well, where people would rather sit behind their laptop screen than they would actually get out there, get active and get involved. James mentioned people mightn't want to go to a meeting if they get an email, or they wouldn't want to reply to an email that they get because they see it in the paper. But if you see something in the paper that says, come to this meeting, come and get involved, come and join and get involved in the campaign, I think you'd be much more willing to do it if someone hands you a leaflet and says that.
Why have you prioritised self-promotion, as in getting your face around there and getting people to know who the CNC officer is, as opposed to the other priorities?
Well, I think people need to know who their campaigns and communications officer is before they can throw themselves into any kind of campaign. It's only a vital element of, if you're paying someone €400 a week, they need to know the face of the SU, they need to know who the SU officer is, and if they want to get involved in any kind of campaign, they need to know who to go to. But I don't think it's self-promotion. I wouldn't agree with that. It's promoting of the union. Every single student in this college is a member of the students' union, and it's only right that the union is promoted, not the individual.
Personally, I believe it's not about the campaign's communications office self-promotion. It's about the messages they're giving to the student union. They're acting as a facilitator. In regards to the the campaigns that have been run this year, I was instrumental in the national fees campaign. I ran the Save Our Track campaign. This is how you get students involved. I facilitated these. I got involved in these. That's what we want students to do. You promote these. You promote these national campaigns or student campaigns. You get people involved. You provide them with the information. It doesn't affect you matter who the face is behind it. You're just getting the right unbiased message out there.
Well, I think it does matter who the face is behind the position, because at the end of the day, you have to campaign on behalf of students. They have to follow you. You have to lead them. So obviously it does matter. The big thing about self-promotion, Ronan, and it's a good question, is you see, I wouldn't be self-promoting James Atkinson. It'd be self-promotion of the campaigns and communications officer, because obviously people need to know who that is. An intrinsic part of communication is who you're communicating to. In terms of my priorities, I'll deal with one of them, accountability. Personally, if I'm elected, I'll publish all my expenses online. I'll encourage other sabbatical officers to do so. I'll demand that next year there is a budget for a students' union. That hasn't happened this year. The last budget published for students to see is online for 2010-11, and even that budget, many will admit, isn't great. So one of my priorities there is accountability.
And Ashton?
Okay, I'm going to keep this short. The reason why people need to know who the campaigns and communications officer is because it's their job. That's the whole point behind the position, is that everybody knows who they are and what they're saying to inform the students.
All right, okay, we're going to move on to Manifesto specific stuff. Paddy, you say you want a big screen on campus. Have you looked into the affordability of this, and can it be done within the...
Correctly, I want to facilitate the use of live screens on campus like the ones we can currently have. For example, the one in the student centre in all buildings. I want to promote the union's message, what's going on in the students' union, what's going on for our students, by using the current facilities we already have, because it's the most cost-effective manner, and I believe that's not been used already. And I have guarantees from Building Service that this can happen, and we can do this.
And another point in your manifesto, you say you want to integrate a credits for life system into people's courses. And that would involve, I suppose, overhauling a lot of people's academic curriculum, etc. Is that feasible at all? Have you spoken to any college department about that?
The university want this, and I can guarantee that DCU already have it implemented. This is about getting people involved on college life, adding to their CV, and just enjoying the time they have in college. Let's give them credits in, for example, the method that's done in DCU is through an elective system. It wouldn't be their course subject. How we can go about doing this, let's give them credits for playing sport at a certain level, get involved in societies, or even get involved in the student union. It's all just promoting about getting people involved in college life and away from the books for a bit.
But Paddy, would you, as a campaigns and communications officer, have any authority whatsoever to implement a credits for life scheme?
No.
I don't think it'd be even in the jurisdiction of an education officer as a student union rep.
No,
it's an academic
Karl,
thing.
no, that's a good point, absolutely. But this needs to be done. This has been in a
But
lot
can
of
you do
education
it? Can you
offices.
do it?
Let me finish, please. This has been in a lot of education officers' mandates. We need to lobby for this. We need to campaign for this. This is something I'm very passionate about. I want to see this done. We need to get more students involved in college. That's the key for getting people involved in the union. This can be
Will
done.
the university
Anyway.
allow it?
But you can't do it yourself personally.
But as a voice of the student union, as a figurehead in the UCD of the student union, as being campaigns officer, I can campaign for this. I can work for this, and that's why I want it done.
I don't think candidates should be promising things that they just can't deliver on.
No,
basically.
I never agree. I can promise this. I can work with this.
You can't promise it. You can't promise it, because if you don't deliver it, then you're not promising.
We'll see if I get elected.
Okay, can I just say, Ron's question was... Okay, can we just get back to the question, because this is a debate. The question was what can you do to prove that credits for life can come in? And Paddy said that the university wants this, and it's happened in DCU. We're not DCU, and I'd like to see, I'm sure everyone else would, what's the proof behind credits for life? And sure, everybody wants to get students involved.
Okay, yeah, I think we just got the answer there. Basically, it's even in UCD at the moment. The orchestra get 5 credits for getting involved with them. That first of all shows it can be done. And look how successful the orchestra is. Look how many times they are practicing here every Monday and Wednesday night. That's why this can be done. And unlike other candidates, I fully believe this can happen.
The orchestra are used for university events, and that's basically why the orchestra regularly attend.
You have to realise that's the way of incentivizing the most talented people to come to UCD.
Lads, can we get one question at a time, please? You're all talking so much.
sorry for being involved in the debate. What I was saying is that the orchestra are used for university events. They're given the opportunity to play at events that go on in the O'Reilly Hall for large-scale meetings. They take lots of time out of studies to do this, and that is why they're given the extra credit for life. I don't know if the university would jump up and down at the idea of someone running for class rep being given extra credits.
No, you're right, Carl. The orchestra do events, but what I'm trying to say is other aspects are that the university does want this. I've spoken to representatives, I've spoken to officials, and this can be done.
Who have you spoken to?
The VP
Can you
for
get it in
students.
writing, please?
Pardon?
Can
The
you get it in
VP for
writing?
students, and this is why this is what I'm something very, very passionate about. I want to see this happen. Unlike other candidates, this can be done, and I truly believe it can happen. The main message, ethos behind this, and the main message is, no matter if what other candidates argue about, it may not fall under a campaign's brief. Yes, it does. The main reason it's encouraging student involvement in student life in our university.
Okay, apparently we have to wrap it up there now, so thanks for taking part. Cheers.
Right, cool, thanks.
Thank you.